Dola Dangwa Jebe Dra Nobar Jebe Gek Tarba Dan Tamje Gembe Pardu Jobra Jeba Tam Jege Su Jebe Man Gada Nampe Senjen Tamje Dewa Dan Den Tunga Dandu Nerdu Lana Me Pa Yang Dabar Zobe Janju Rembo Je Dompara Ja Dala Dangwa Jebe Dra Nobar jebe gek tarba tham tham je gembe bardu chopra jeba tham je ge ze jebe ma nang ka dang nyam pe sen jen tham je de wa dang de Dung yao dang de ne de la na me pa yang ta para zo be chan chu ren po je to para ja da la dang wa je be da no par je be ge tar ba dang tham je gen be bar du cho pra je ba tham je ge ze je be ma nang ga dang nyam be sen jen tham je de wa dang de Tungao dang zhe ne de la na me pa yang tao para so pe chan chu ren po che to para cha de je de sang ma ge ki bar du long a yi sum ge wa la go ma shi bar du long a yi sum ge wa la go du de reng ne song de ne ma san da sang ge bar du long a yi sum ge wa la go Songye Chodan Soge Chonamla Chancho Pardu Dani Gyabzu Je Dagi Jinsu Gibe Sonangye Drola Pencher Sangye Dubra Sho Sangye Chodan Soge Chonamla Chancho Pardu Dani Gyabzu Je Dagi Jinsu Gibe Sonangye Drola Pencher Sangye Dubra Sho Sangye Chodan Soge Chonamla Chanchu bardu dani gyabzu je dagi jinsu gebe sonam ge drola pencher sangye drupra sho manang kadang nyampe sinchen tamche dewa dang dewe gyundan dambara gyurje dungyao dang dungyao ge gyudang dewa gyurje Tunga me pe dewa dhamme dewa gyurje nering chada nidang dewe tanyong hana pra gyurje kada nyampe senchen tamche dewa dang dewe gyudan tempara gyurje tunga dang tunga gi gyudan dewa gyurje tunga me pe dewa dhamme dewa gyurje nering chada nidang dewe tanyong hana pra gyurje Kadanyam pe sanchen tamche dewa dang dewe gyundan dambara gyurje dunya dang dunya gi gyudan dewa gyurje dunya me pe dewa dang me dewa gyurje nerin chada nidang dewe danyam la nebra gyurje Vajra samaja Vajra samaja Vajra samaja Semchen kungi gonggyur chen tude punche medze zomze lang onam malu jishin kengyur be chumden koje nedir shishu so argyam padyam pushpe drupe aloke gende nivide shabda prate jaso ha sashi punchu jishin metodam Rira lenshi nide genpa di sangye shinla mingte bulwa ye Roko namda shindu chobara sho Jase wadang chojing shabadang jesu yirang kuzing sowa ye Kewa chungse dagi jisakpa tamche sobe chanchu jirangu On page 9, there is this supplication to the Guru. It comes from actually two sources, page 9, 10, to the top of 11. It comes from two sources within the Drigung tradition. So here we supplicate the Guru, and understanding that the Guru, the external Guru, is a reflection, is an embodiment of the inner Guru. And so, what is this inner Guru? Namo, homage to the Guru, the complete purity of phenomenal existence. Phenomenal existence here means, like ordinary, all the things that exist in the ordinary sense, all the appearances. So appearances, another way of saying phenomenal existence, and here phenomenal existence is a translation of the Tibetan Nangsi. You see, Namo Nangsi. Namda is complete purity. Complete as in total. Complete as in total. So the total purity of phenomenal existence, Nangsi. Nangsi in other contexts is translated as samsara and nirvana. And also appearances, more literally, Nang is Nangwa, appearances, Si is essence. But then in this context, it's referring to all that exists. So phenomenal existence, maybe there's a better translation than phenomenal existence, especially in common English. When we say phenomenal, we think, ooh, it's not phenomenal in that sense, Ooh. Just, all that appears, all that appears, all that we consider to be existent. And all that we consider to be existent, their true nature, the way they abide, the mode of their abiding is complete purity. Complete purity is the Vajrayana equivalent of what in Sutrayana is known as emptiness. And so the Guru, who is the Guru? What is the Guru? The Guru is the essence of all that we think to exist. And specifically, this emptiness aspect, this complete purity. So I make offerings to you, you who manifest in the ground of phenomenal existence. So again here, ground is pointing to on the essence level of all that exists. And I supplicate you for the total liberation of the three realms. I pray to you for the complete and total liberation of the three realms. The realm of forms, or the sensual realm, the realm of form, and the formless realm. These are the three realms. So this is to supplicate the Guru, which is the complete purity, which is the emptiness, which is the nature of all that exists. In a way, you could say it's a poetic way of saying we have to realize, we have to come face to face with this Guru. We have to come face to face with the emptiness, the complete purity aspect of all that we think exists, of all that we like, of all that we don't like, of all that we habitually think to be. Their nature is complete purity, their nature is emptiness, and that is the Guru that we are talking about. We say the Guru is the one that frees us. So what frees us? What frees us, what liberates us, is the opposite of what binds us. What binds us, what deprives us of our freedom, is our own delusions. And these are all the delusions that arise from not seeing the basic fact of emptiness, of the lack of inherent existence. So this is the Guru that we supplicate. Grant your blessings of dredging samsara from its very depths. So the very depths of samsara, down to the worst suffering that you can imagine, its nature is still this lack of inherent existence, this emptiness, in which once we realize this, we become free from. Then even rebirth in the hell realms, if that happens, becomes manageable. And that is also the story behind Captain Compassion. Most of you have heard of Captain Compassion. So Captain Compassion, when he killed, right, this would-be murderer, in order to save the 500 bodhisattva merchants, and also to save the would-be murderer from the karma of killing 500 bodhisattvas. When Captain Compassion did that, according to Gyoba Rinpoche, he wasn't at all an ordinary person. He was already at the 7th bhumi of the bodhisattva bhumis. And at the 7th bhumi, the realization that everything is mind is already realized. The understanding that everything is mind is already realized. And so in Gyoba Rinpoche's explanation, he says, and therefore, even though he was, objectively, he was reborn in the hell realms for having murdered a human being, even though the karmic result of that led to rebirth in the hell realms, because he already had realization that everything is mind, then that existence in hell realm became bearable for him. Bearable in what sense? Bearable in the sense of he did not give up bodhicitta. So then the pain of being in hell realm became manageable, became possible. From the perspective of our bodhisattva vow, what is most terrifying about hell realms, about suffering, is not the pain itself. It's how the pain may cause us to lose bodhicitta, may cause bodhicitta to decline. And so, but when we have this realization, not just intellectually, but even, if now it's still kind of intellectually getting that everything is mind, and mind itself is empty, is the next realization. First everything is mind, but then mind too is empty. Then even an intellectual understanding can be the beginning of our evolution, our growth into full awakening to that truth, to that reality. Aryadeva says, when we hear about these teachings on emptiness, if even the slightest doubt has been created with regards to how solid we think appearances are, how solid we think, quote unquote, reality is, even the slightest doubt, if it has arisen as a result of hearing these teachings about emptiness, then already samsara has unraveled. Kind of like if you have a sweater, a knit sweater. Once, something comes loose, you pull, and the whole sweater, is on its way out. So Aryadeva praises, the power of even hearing a little bit about these teachings on emptiness, of lack of inherent existence. And if hearing that, we begin to, maybe it's actually not that solid. Aha! You have caught the bug. Samsara is already starting to fall apart. So grant your blessings for dredging samsara from its very depths. Like the deepest hidden things about samsara are all dragged up into the surface that you can see, then you can pull out. Lord, wish-fulfilling gem, ornament of my crown. So this Lord, you could say, is this emptiness, this realization of emptiness, this realization of emptiness of inherent existence, this realization of appearances as mine as empty of inherent existence. This is the Lord. This Lord is personified in the human guru, the guru as books, as reliable Dharma books. So Lord, wish-fulfilling gem. What fulfills wishes is this realization, ornament of my crown. So the most precious jewel that you have, place on your crown. These days, the most precious jewel you have, maybe you wear on your finger, you wear, inside your, wherever it is that you place it, meaning you cherish this. Beyond word and expression is your victorious mind. So now, speaking in more human terms. So the victorious mind is the mind that has become free. So this is now the person, the guru, the person who has realized this. And that realization is beyond word and expression, that very mind of the guru. That is endowed with the 5 superior primordial wisdoms. These are the 5 wisdoms we often talk about. Wisdom of the Dharma Dhatu in the, if you map it out on the 5 Buddha family mandala. Wisdom of the Dharma Dhatu, which is the basic wisdom. Wisdom with regards to the Dharma Dhatu. Maybe better translation is that way. The wisdom that understands the Dharma Dhatu as the Dharma Dhatu. Dharma Dhatu is the sphere of reality. Right now we're experiencing all of this not as Dharma Dhatu. Right now we're experiencing all of this as samsara. When the true nature of samsara is recognized and abandoned, put aside, then this is Dharma Dhatu, literally the sphere of reality. So the wisdom that recognizes all of this as the sphere of reality, as Dharma Dhatu. So that's the basic wisdom. So the wisdom of Dharma Dhatu, giving rise to the other 4 wisdoms, the mirror-like wisdom, often placed in the eastern direction, associated to Akshobhya, Buddha Akshobhya. The wisdom of realizing the Dharma Dhatu is associated with Vairochana, placed in the central position. Then the wisdom of equality, of sameness, the sameness nature of all. It's in the southern direction. The wisdom of discernment is in the western direction, associated with Amitabha. The wisdom of sameness associated with uh, Ratna Sambhava. And then the all accomplishing wisdom of the northern direction associated with the unfailing Buddha, Amoga Siddhi, which is what Amoga Siddhi means, unfailing. And so these five primordial wisdoms, then associated with the five Buddha families, the five directions, the principle of the mandala of the five Buddhas. And this weekend, we will be looking more into this, and more specifically, the wisdom of discernment of the lotus family of the Buddha Amitabha. So, the Guru now is the one endowed with these five wisdoms, epitome of love, the one with kindness. So, wisdom is one side of that equation. Love, compassion, kindness is the other side of that. And because they have both wisdom and they have love, compassion, kindness, therefore, then they are precious protector of wandering beings. I supplicate you in the innate state of my mind. So the true way of praying to the Guru, supplicating Guru. So this is all, right? All these instructions are part of understanding the third aspect of the fivefold, devotion to the Guru. Yes, so this is the context in case you have not caught on where we are. The text may be different, but it's all folded into the fivefold. Yeah? I supplicate you. So we supplicate, we pray, we pray. An easier word is just we pray. By the way, in the older use of this word pray, it doesn't necessarily have a religious connotation. Of course, now it's all religious. But literally, it's I ask, I ask you. Anyway, so we pray, we supplicate, we beg. But how do we need to supplicate the Guru? How? In what way? From where? From the innate state of my mind. From the innate state of my mind. Not from my monkey mind. Not from the mind overpowered by the delusions. So in a way, you could say this is kind of a catch-22, chicken and egg situation. And it is. It is. That you cannot see the Guru as the Guru is because you cannot see your nature as the Guru. And you say, and so I need to rely on the Guru to see my nature as Guru? Correct. And so somewhere, Gilbert Rinpoche, in one of the teachings, one of the texts that I came across, he said, there are two ways to develop the ability. There are two ways to perceive the human Guru as Buddha. And he says the gradual way is to, bit by bit and learn and, gradually gain conviction, and then, slowly through reasoning, somehow, one of these days you wake up and you go, oh, indeed, the Guru is Dharmakaya. And then he said, in my case, I just force myself there. And luckily, of course, he had Pamadrupa as his kind of his reference point, his object. So these days, I don't recommend forcing yourself into it. These days, there are too many options, and most of the options are created by social media. Uh, so, don't just read, Gilbert and Rinpoche say, oh, he just forced himself into believing that his guru is Buddha and it worked for him, and therefore I want to be like Gilbert Rinpoche. Uh, these days, maybe a way to put it is, we don't have Gilbert Rinpoche's karma, a little risky to simply force yourself into believing regarding some person as guru and guru as dharmakaya. Although it is true, they are guru and guru is dharmakaya. That is true, but true or not is one issue. Skillful or not, another issue. Mm. But there it gives us some insight, that sometimes you really need to kind of look into it and say, if there is a block in seeing the guru as Buddha, is this block due to, what I would call reasonable, relative, healthy boundaries? And I think if that's the case, it's it's okay for now. So keep those boundaries, because it's healthy. But if you look into it and you realize, oh no, it's just me and my stubbornness. Of course, it's not so easy to tell the difference. But if you're really honest and you say, no, it's just me and my stubbornness, me and my pride. I don't want to listen to this person, but I somehow know this person is saying something good. But I still don't want to listen. This is when your resistance comes up like that. And I still think I know better than this person. Then maybe Gilbert Rinpoche's advice is necessary. You have to force yourself. Then one flaw, one fault is cured. It's removed, for your own sake. My suggestion, kind of, this is not anywhere from Gilbert Rinpoche or anyone. My own way of thinking about this is, I say, don't tell that person that you're relating to them in this way. Keep it a secret from them. But you use them to train yourself like this. Yeah, then in that way, you protect them, you protect yourself. But that is part of the function of having a guru, that they can change you, but without them necessarily actively participating in that way. Don't tell them. Anyway, here it says, you need to truly supplicate, to truly see the guru face to face. You have to be coming from that innate state of your mind. And bless me in that state of suchness, meaning, meaning, the true blessing of the guru can only come when you're coming from that realization of suchness, in that state of suchness. That is when full, complete, quote unquote, blessings of the guru can take over. Grant your blessings for realizing this primordially birthless and completely pristine mind as the Dharmakaya beyond thoughts. Grant your blessings for realizing this. Again, another kind of chicken and egg situation. You're like, right? Our clever mind will say, well, if I'm really operating from this innate state of mind level, in this state of suchness, then I already seen this mind as the Dharmakaya beyond thoughts. I don't need any more blessings. But yet here we say, grant your blessings for realizing this primordially birthless and completely pristine mind as the Dharmakaya beyond thoughts. Okay, elsewhere, Kyoba Rinpoche says, teachers who lack qualities cannot engender those qualities in the students. Right? I'm sure, yes, we all have heard stories about the power of faith, the power of devotion. So much so that we say even a dog's tooth can turn into a Buddha relic. So there's a story like that. And through the great faith of a simple mother who trusted the son's claim that, oh yes, this is a Buddha relic I got from India for you. A Tibetan merchant that went to India came back with a dead dog's tooth and gave to the mother and said, oh yeah, this is the Buddha relic you want. I, I, I worked very hard and I was able to get one for you. The mother, with so much faith, made offerings to it until, all the neighbors could see light coming out of their house at night. So often this is said that, if we have so much faith in the Guru, then even if the Guru has not yet achieved Buddhahood, for your purpose, this Buddha, this Guru that you perceive as Buddha, you'll be blessed. Yes, there are teachings like that, but this kind of teaching cannot be divorced from equal emphasis on training with choosing teachers that have qualities. So the third aspect of the Fivefold Path is mogu, is devotion. Devotion is arises from conviction, which is depa. Depa is what often is translated as faith. Depa, better than faith, would be conviction. So in the way that is more gradual, first we develop conviction. So particularly conviction in the Dharma. Right? And then seeing how the Guru lives the Dharma. We gain conviction in the Dharma, we gain conviction in the Guru, and then from there, devotion arises. Devotion is more than conviction, although we need not try to separate them too much. It's a whole package, so to say, of heart qualities. It's about the heart opening, an opening for the possibility that we are Buddhists. Opening to experience that, to recognize that. And we say that kind of that circumstance for seeing that nature is due to the kindness of the Guru, due to the kindness of the lineage masters, due to the kindness of the generations of individuals who have practiced this. who have applied this. In one text, again, you see kind of the movement, from Guru as a human, Guru as Dharmakaya. In this one important text for conferring the Bodhisattva vow in the Drigong tradition. This is something that Kyoba Rinpoche himself gave on numerous occasions, and so eventually his closest disciple, Chenga Sherab Jungne, wrote down this ceremony. It's unique to the Drigong tradition. And I shared one passage on Substack last night. Anyway, throughout this ceremony, Kyoba Rinpoche would say, okay, now in order to receive the aspiration bodhicitta vow, you have to think like this, you have to understand that, you have to visualize this, you have to do these offerings, you have to chant this, you have to make these prostrations, so on and so forth. And then one of the constant theme is, and you have to perceive the Guru giving you, the Guru facilitating this arising, this generation, this giving rise to bodhicitta as aspiration vow and as application vow. You have to perceive the Guru as a Buddha. So again and again, he will remind people, his disciples, you have to perceive the Guru as Buddha. In other words, he's saying them, you have to perceive me as Buddha. But in the same text, he will say, he will say, and so me, the worm, me, the insect, worm, bug. He almost coins a name for himself. So when he's talking about himself, so there you can kind of see, like there's the human side that he acknowledges, and he says, and so me, this mere worm, taking now the role of a guru, and you need to perceive the guru as Buddha. And then in the text, when he talks about, like the past, and he says, so me, this worm, when I was doing retreat, la 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 la, like that. Right? So there is me, the worm, me, the insignificant worm, bug, insect, and then now I am giving you the application vow. You have to perceive me as Buddha, otherwise it will not work for you. So there, already, I think it shows us, the kind of tensions there. Not bad tensions, but just in a way you could say necessarily it's there. So it's not as simplistic, naive of like, oh, Guru is Buddha, for sure Guru is Buddha. There are two sides. So seeing Guru as Buddha, seeing the noble Sangha and the qualities of noble Sangha, doesn't mean, that they can do no wrong. Doesn't mean, in a way also doesn't mean they need to be perfect the way you think of like God is perfect, Like for example, right now, right? So many people, myself included, so impressed, so touched, by the impact that these monks have. And particularly they as a group, is the noble Sangha. But don't turn that into God worship, Then it's not Dharma practice. That we so admire them is so that we admire those qualities that we know we should strive for. As for the faults, I'm sure they have faults. I'm sure they have flaws, When this frenzy is over, right? Which is a good frenzy. If there's unfriendly people, I'm sure if they dig around, I'm sure they'll find something as humans, And then what? What when you hear news, Now, very positive news. What if you hear negative news? Oh, no, this is bad. These people are bad. They're making up stories about them. Or, oh no, my faith and trust in them now broken. No, on to the next religion, on to the next God to worship. Don't do that. Yes, those qualities. I was saying to a friend, I said, this is the kind of monastic that I want to grow up to become in terms of those qualities that they are showing, embodying, that are touching people's hearts. Those are the qualities. Equally, I was very impressed, actually, maybe even more impressed, because, is the response of people. That gave, hope that that the Buddha was right. What everyone wants is happiness and peace. And that's what people are displaying. That's what people are responding to. And so anyway, right? When we train ourselves to see the good in others, that's another way of understanding this Guru Yoga. When we train to see the good in others, and in this method, beginning with your guide, yes, you are saying, I'm making a choice to not focus on their flaws, knowing that until you are Buddha, there are flaws, there are faults to be cleared. Again, in the same Bodhisattva vow ceremony, at the end, after giving the application vow, and then Kyoba Rinpoche had a discussion, about, so what is it that someone who has received this vow now need to do? And he said there's a lot of discussions about this, and many of these discussions kind of terrify people until people are so paralyzed by, oh, I got to do this, I got to do this, I cannot do this, I cannot do that, And he said, if you can keep the 10 virtues and avoid the 10 non-virtues, that is very good. If you cannot avoid the 10 non-virtues, how about avoiding 9 non-virtues? Not possible? What about 8? Not possible? What about 7? All the way down to, it's like, still not possible? How about saying, I made a promise to one of these days avoid the 10 non-virtues? And he says, if you're sincere about that point, that constitutes practicing the application bodhicitta. And specifically, he says, that even bodhisattvas on the bhumis still have flaws and faults. And we do not know what those things are, And we do not need to trouble ourselves with what those things are. Right? So he says, don't look for faults. And he says, particularly your fellow bodhisattva siblings, don't look at their faults. In fact, Kyoba Rinpoche, when he first arrived at his teacher's community in Densatil, maybe some of you remember, he was very proud. He was very, he said in his biography, he was very proud. Proud that he was such a great, serious practitioner. And he was. But there was pride, So, he felt so much devotion when he first heard his teacher's name, Mahamudra. And that was, clearly, there was no social media at that time, He didn't know that Mahamudra had so many likes, Just hearing the name Mahamudra, it kind of like did something to him, It's like, I got to go see this person. Yeah, so even without, knowing how many likes, Mahamudra got, he made the journey. Then when he arrived, in a way, he was like, what? I came all the way for this? He didn't think much, of all the people who are gathered there to train with Mahamudra. I thought they would be much more impressive. He really wanted to think, like it was almost arriving at Amitabha's Pure Land, all the great bodhisattvas just floating around, the way we think of like the perfect place, people giving free hugs, right? That would be our modern Western version, everybody being so kind and so helpful. But when he arrived, he's like, what? Look at these people. So then he spent his time, finding fault with them. All the way to, even affecting the way he was thinking. Oh, maybe Mahamudra is not the guy. If it's so great, how can the people around him be so lousy, And this is in his biography. He said he had pride, But then something changed. Then he realized, oh my gosh, And it said that then he went to every single person there and apologized to them. Of course, they were maybe even surprised, like, wait, what? And he said, oh, so sorry, I have all these, I was finding fault with you. And then he made an offering, it says, to every one of them. It wasn't easy when he arrived. He said that he expected the people from his area, and this is a very common expectation. He expected people from his area to be helpful to him, to kind of, consider him as one of their own. These kind of regional loyalties are very strong. But apparently his people didn't really want to help him. People from his region, and according to him, part of the reason is that they were embarrassed by how bad he looked. It said that he looked even worse than a beggar. Like his clothes, and they were embarrassed by it. And again, you would think, oh, in this like great spiritual community, people are not so superficial, how you dress. In fact, the worse you dress, right? That probably shows that you are less, attached to the world, And probably Kyoba Rinpoche also thought that way. It's like, what do you mean? Like, this is the proper outfit for a real practitioner. Again, some pride, Look, My things are all falling apart, And then he probably saw all the others, dressing in nice robes and everything. He's like, ah. So that didn't endear him to the people there. And he found fault with them until one day he recognized the error of his ways. And then he quickly changed. Just as his pride was a fault, his strength was also the willingness and the ability to change once he recognized that that was what was going on. Yeah? In a way, right, if you occupy yourself with other people's faults, then you have given up precious real estate. Yeah? The real estate of your heart, is very precious. Don't rent it out for free to nonsense. Not only for free, you seem to be subsidizing these renters. And then when they threaten to leave, you're like, please, please don't leave. We've gotten used to, crazy renters. Renters who don't pay rent. Renters that you have to buy groceries for them. But they are not good for you. You should have evicted them long time ago. Instead, right, look at the qualities and say, that is quality I want. So this is also then connects us up to what the Buddha called the 4 reliances. Rely on the teachings and not the person, not the personality. Of course, you need the person to explain the teachings, to share their more advanced experience with those teachings. So you need the person. But in the end, it's not the person that you rely on. It's not the personality of the person that you rely on. Don't learn that personality. Don't become like that. Oh, this teacher, he likes to order people around. So to be a practitioner, I need to order people around. No, that's personality. That's personal traits. Don't leave that alone. Take the teachings. First, reliance. Second, as for these teachings, necessarily we begin with the words. But it's not the words that we should rely on. It's the meaning of those words. Right? So this is the part where you go, but. Every time you listen to the teachings, you are mainly stuck on the words. If you, every turn, you go, but. You already know the meaning, but yet you spend time arguing with the words. But, don't you think? Yeah, and you know that too. If the whole time, we have to find, the exact word, then nothing will get done, Even your most exact word, someone would go, but. You know the meaning. Take the meaning. Then the third reliance, it says, as for meaning, even there are preliminary meaning and definitive meaning. So rely on that changeless meaning. the definitive meaning. And so here we're talking about, depending on your evolution, your stage of practice, you may be given an instruction to do this or to do that. But those are tailored to your particular situation, to your particular station. You need to know when you grow beyond that, to the stable, to the definitive meaning. Then finally, the fourth one, in terms of this meaning, there is meaning at the level of intellectual understanding, and there is meaning at the level of realization, of wisdom. Rely on that. And not let it just be intellectual. And so these are the four reliances. So in our Mahamudra manual, we have started on this section on the natural state Mahamudra, where it says that basically, first we need to stabilize the mind. In terms of training in stabilizing the mind so that it's not like a monkey jumping here, jumping there, we begin with cultivating with signs, and then followed by cultivating with practices that do not rely on signs, on characteristics. So the first one, under the practice with characteristics, basically, assuming the optimal position, the position of Vairochana with its 7 points. Then we generate, then we give rise, again, refresh our bodhicitta vow, remembering the power of love, the power of compassion, letting love and compassion direct our focus to the work, to the commitment of achieving Buddhahood for the sake of all. Resolving to free ourselves from delusion and the poisons that arise from that. Understanding that that is the only way we may be able to have some impact on others and to help others. Recognizing that the sooner we completely overcome our own suffering and confusion, then the more meaningful we can be for others. Otherwise, we will be distracted by thinking doing this, doing that is how we're going to help others. Then it's all just busy this, busy that. In the end, even if we can keep someone safe for one lifetime, what about next lifetime? What about next lifetime? What about next lifetime? So better if we're able to help everyone develop the safety that they can build for themselves, that they can assure for themselves. And that is the task of Buddhas. Buddhas don't superficially just keep pulling people out of trouble, pulling people out of suffering. Yes, in the short term, Buddhas, if there's anyone, Buddhas for sure have the power to temporarily pull someone out of suffering, pull someone out of trouble. But in the end, both happiness and suffering arise as the natural embodiment of our own state, of our own situation. And so even Buddhists cannot simply put someone in a state of happiness. So resolve to achieve Buddhahood for the sake of all beings. And let that resolve now arise in the form of idam. Even though in our manual the idam is the co-emergent Jagasamvara, Lord and Lady, with all the details of idam practice. The 5 awakenings that involve training in the dissolutions at the time of death, training in working with the visions of the Bardo, and working with the process of rebirth, reappearing in the next life. And so all these are trainings in the 3 kayas. As one life ends, those dissolutions, it's the natural dissolving back into Dharmakaya. From Dharmakaya arises Sambhogakaya, which in the confused context are all the visions of the Bardo, the intermediate state. And from the arising of Sambhogakayas arise the Nirmanakayas, which again in the confused way, giving rise to beings in the 6 realms of confused existence, but reversing that through the practice of idam, through cultivating the 5 abhisambodhi, the 5 awakenings that we talked a lot about when we looked at the idam section. Try to briefly recall all of that. Then whether appearing as co-emergent Jagasamvara, Lord and Lady, or as Kilpa Rinpoche says, if you have not yet formed a strong connection with Jagasamvara or Vajrayogini, then he says, adopt my idam, which is the Lord of Compassion, Avalokiteshvara. Then either above your head or in your heart, know that your Guru is present. Feel the presence of this guidance, of this example of awakened mind, of this example of awakened actions, of this example of awakened speech. Recognize the great fortune you have to have met such a being, such a person, and hold them close to your heart with gratitude, with admiration for the qualities. So you can think of Buddha Shakyamuni, Milarepa, Jigten Sumgyun, Even closer to our times, some of the great beings that you have heard of, such as His Holiness the Dalai Lama, such as the late Venerable Thich Nhat Hanh, any of these beings, such as our present throne holders, teachers that we admire, they are all Guru. Hold them in your heart, yourself as Avalokiteshvara. And then when you are ready, the blue bindu again. Blue bindu in the center of yourself as Avalokiteshvara, or co-emergent Jagasamvara, Lord and Lady. If it is in the form of Lord and Lady, then particularly now, the blue bindu is in the heart of, just one blue bindu is sufficient, in the heart of the Lord, of Demcho. Although said to be the size of a mustard seed, when you blend your mind together with it, this bindu can become very big, become very small, become in between, big as the universe, small as mustard seed, and even smaller. Once the mind is completely resting in the bindu, then there's no separation between that which is doing the perceiving and that which is perceived. That which is cultivating the bindu and the bindu itself becomes just one nature, one undivided element. In our manual, it says when a good state of mental stability arises from doing this, then relax in the natural state, not holding the object of focus, meaning not needing to hold the bindu, and simply rest for a while. Then, again, focus your mind intently on the bindu at the heart and cultivate that. And again, relax and rest. When the mind becomes scattered again, do not follow those thoughts that arise, those feelings that arise, but instead direct your attention back to the bindu. Come back again and again to the Bindu in the heart. See it as the gateway to freedom, gateway to liberation. At the bottom of page 48, it says, again, perform the preparations as before. So do the bodhicitta, idam, guru. And then at the center of navel, at the navel center, a yellow bindu, again the size of a mustard seed. So from the blue bindu at the heart to a golden yellow bindu in the navel center. So these bindus, they are at the center of the central channel. Some of us have gained some acquaintance with the central channel in the context of pova practice. So blue and then drop down becomes golden yellow bindu. So that's the next thing to cultivate. Let it drop down to the navel. Then it says, if dullness, if it becomes, because it drops down, and if it becomes dull, the mind, or fuzzy, then raise it up to the throat as a red bindu. And then finally, white in the crown. Crown is here, yeah? Not on the top. Crown is here, inside. Inside, white bindu. So these are the four nodes, chakra nodes. That is where the energy points spread out from the central channel in these four places. The heart, navel, throat, and crown. And forehead, but not on the surface here, inside. Blue, yellow, red, white. So the white, red, and blue is like the Om Ahong, the colors. Maybe then the only new thing, so to say, is the golden yellow that is in the navel channel. Navel channel, depending on text, sometimes is literally where the belly button go inside, all four fingers down. So either is fine, meaning in that general vicinity. Is the golden bindu there. And as you do this, slowly, then also what you're training is, it says where the mind goes, the winds gather. Winds are talking about these energy that course through our body. Wind is a metaphor for the energy, as in it moves. It has the qualities similar to wind, similar to oxygen. But it's not talking literally about oxygen either. Oxygen coincides, with this prana, this life breath, this vital energy. So using the bindu, we basically, one thing we're doing is we are gathering all our thoughts, gathering all our resources, gathering all our energy, gathering all of our being into this central channel. And so when the winds enter central channel, it's, often you come across that expression. Gilbert Rinpoche actually says, actually we're not really talking about winds, he says, don't get so literal about it. It says the main point, the key point of winds entering the central channel, right? Maybe you experience some energy, but he says, but the main point, Gilbert Rinpoche makes very clear, again in one of the texts, he says, it's basically the mind not straying, the mind coming at rest, is the meaning of winds entering the central channel. More direct methods of dealing with that, of course, very famous, is what's known as, the tummo. And I just shared it, one writing on Substack from a very qualified person who have done these practices and also have, mastery of the languages involved. This person, Malcolm Smith, talking about some of these things, It's a good article. So short, so be sure to read that. So we do the dedication on page 78. By the virtues collected in the 3 times by me and the entirety of samsara and nirvana, and by the innate root of virtues, may I and all sentient beings quickly attain the unsurpassed, perfect, complete, precious Bodhi. Changchu Semcho Rinpoche Ma Ge Ba Nam Ge Gyu Che Ge Ba Nyam Pa Me Pa Yang Gong Ne Gong Du Bel Sure. Okay. Ta ta. Bye bye.